Hello everyone, hello. This year is dedicated to Lili Nishmas, Rachalei Abbas, Reb Chaim Tzvi. We are learning Klal Beis of the Sefer Chafetz Chaim, and Klal Beis is about Apei Tzlasa. Apei Tzlasa means in front of three people. This is one of the famous misconceptions about the halachos of Lashon Hara that the Chafetz Chaim was coming to dispel, and that's why in the early Klalim, this Rav Berkowitz explains, in the early Klalim, the Chafetz Chaim is trying to dispel the famous misconceptions. So one of them is Apei Tzlasa, in front of three people. The Gemara seems to sound like it means that if one speaks Lashon Hara in front of three people, it's mutter. The Chafetz Chaim says no, it doesn't mean that. Everyone holds it's aser, and it's worse. It's more, as we explained last week, it's more aser. It's more it's aser. It's a more severe aveira in front of three people. More people are listening, so the speaker is violating lifnei iver for more people. Okay. So what does the Gemara mean? So last week we learned the pshat of Tosfos. Tosfos understands that the Gemara is talking about that the person says something which could be interpreted positively or negatively, maybe even a little negatively. Something like that you shouldn't say in front. You shouldn't say because it might give across a negative impression. But one is allowed to say that in front of three people because since when three people hear something, it tends to spread. The Gemara's language is chavra islay. Every friend has a friend. It tends to spread. So therefore, since I know it's going to spread further, I'll be more careful how I say it. And therefore, that is mutter to say in front of three people. The Gemara's example, where can I find a fire in this neighborhood? Let me just read you from the Sefer. I mentioned last week the Sefer Yad David, a wonderful Sefer on Chafetz Chaim. He writes like this: the person realizes he is not permitted to speak severe actual Lashon Hara, but he allows himself to use a phrase that could have a negative side to it. So Chazal only permit him to say that in front of three people. Why? This will keep him in check, that he doesn't transgress Lashon Hara. Well, the permission is given because Chazal said it's sufficiently probable that the speaker will guard himself to speak in a positive tone, and therefore it's mutter. Okay, that's the shita of Tosfos, and that's the shita which the Chafetz Chaim accepts. Why does the Chafetz Chaim accept the shita of Tosfos? This I didn't mention last week. Just to see inside, at the very end of footnote Gimel, the Chafetz Chaim tells us why he accepts Tosfos as halacha l'maisa. It's a very long footnote. All the footnotes here are very long. Beis and Gimel. Look at the last few lines of footnote Gimel. This is just the end of the shita of Tosfos. The Chafetz Chaim writes, "V'satamti keshitas ha-Tosfos," and I accepted and I paskined in the Sefer like the shita of Tosfos. Why? Mishum delo matzinu mishayachok alehem. I didn't find anyone who explicitly argues. Befeirush bazeh. In other words, when you go through the Rishonim, when you learn a Gemara in the different Rishonim, so sometimes one Rishon says X and one Rishon says Y. Sometimes by implication, the one that says Y argues with the one that says X and vice versa. But here it's not so. Here the Chafetz Chaim points out, none of the other Rishonim say anything which sounds like they would argue on Tosfos. So Tosfos' opinion seems to be accepted, no one else argues, and that's why the Chafetz Chaim accepts Tosfos' opinion. That's Seif Beis. Okay. Now, Seif Gimel is quite famous. Seif Gimel is where the Chafetz Chaim presents the shita of the Rambam. The Rambam has a different view here. The Rambam's view we're going to see is similar to what we saw earlier last week in the Rashbam. I mentioned the Rashbam last week. We're going to get back to this Rashbam when we learn the Rambam. And we'll see that's a parallel idea. This is the shita of the Rambam. Let's learn the halacha inside. And this is how the Rambam explained the Gemara of Apei Tzlasa. Yesh omrim, some say, Im echad siper genusa chaver b'fnei shlosha. If somebody spoke Lashon Hara in front of three people, Aftu avad bevadai avar bevadai yisur Lashon Hara. That first person violated Lashon Hara. Afal pichein, even so, im echad mehashlosha sheshama davar zeh siper achar kach leacherim. If one of these three people then told somebody else, lo avar brezel yisur Lashon Hara, the second speaker didn't violate Lashon Hara. Let's say Ruvain spoke Lashon Hara to Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. He was speaking about somebody else. Ruvain spoke to Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. That was Aser. What Ruvain did was Aser, no question about it. If Shimon, Levi, or Yehuda goes and tells somebody else, that's not Lashon Hara. That's what the Rambam says. Why? Mitam, from the reason, Dekevan de Shlosh